It's 88.2 Samuel FM, the hit selector, and I am Crystal. You just listened to Wild Thoughts coming in from DJ Khaled, Rihanna, as well as Bryson Tiller. But right now, I would like to welcome my guest on Celeb Select, Major General MUGISHA Muntu. Welcome to Celeb Select.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Pleasure is mine.
I hope I didn't interrupt a very busy weekend.
No.
Not too busy this weekend.
Yeah, it was planned. Fortunately, I was allotted early enough, so I was able to prepare.
So I'm a little
be here today.
Thank
this
you.
time.
Well, it's good to have you here. We want to get to know you better, so thank you for this opportunity. We always like to start with knowing what it was like for you growing up, where you were born, and just a bit about your parents.
Okay. I was born on 7th of October, 1958. In a dispensary called Washamayre, which is in Kajara, currently in Tungamo district. That time it was part of the larger Ankole district. My father was called Enoch Montuyera, my mother Ida Matama Montuyera. Unfortunately, both are deceased. And in the early years, like when we were about 4 years, around 4 years, that's when our country got independence. Around that time, my father was the inspector of schools in Ankole district. Then he later joined politics. And he became a minister in the Ankole government. And he moved from different ministries between that period until about 66. I started school in Mbarara, it's a Mbara Junior School, from around 64. Around 66, when I was in P2, there was a crisis in the Ankole kingdom. There were contradictions, political contradictions. My father resigned the ministerial position. So we moved to Kajara, home. So we relocated. And I joined a school called Chitunga Primary School. It still exists. And I had to walk with my other siblings. It's about 5 kilometers from school to the village.
You had 5 siblings?
No. That time we were 4.
You were 4.
But those of us who were in school were 3. And it was a longer distance than when we were in Barara from school to where we were staying. So we'd have to about 5 kilometers, morning and evening, which was quite an experience. And that's where I was in that primary school until my primary 7. Unfortunately, in 1971, I was in P7 by then. The UPC government was overthrown by General Idi Amin. My father then was the chairman of the UPC party in Ankole district. So he was caught up, of course, in all that, like many others all over the country. The coup was in January, and in March, after I think observing what was happening all around, he chose not to stay. So he left the country and crossed to Tanzania. And they made a number of, I think, UPC functionaries, those who had been in the army and security services, and those who had been in politics. A number of them who could move out, moved out. Unfortunately, quite a number of others were killed. Unfortunately, a number of my father's colleagues,
but for you,
quite a number of them
and
in
your
Ankole
mother,
were.
did you stay here?
We stayed in the village, in the rural area. So I went to Tanzania, and from that point on, the means of livelihood were different from earlier on.
Yes, they changed drastically.
Yes.
Mm.
And in 72, I don't remember the month, was it 73? There was an attack from Tanzania
Okay.
on two fronts. One on Mbarara front, another on Masaka front. He was in the attack on the side of Mbarara. Fortunately, he survived amongst the few who survived, because I think they lost about 3/4 of the force which had come from Tanzania. Possibly more than half were lost. He managed to cross back to Tanzania, and the situation became quite unstable.
Yes.
In fact, at that point, a number of leaders who had been close with my father, quite a number of them in Ankole died, were killed. That's when the late Nehemiah Varanka, the late Lachi, the late Katundu, the late Ntundwere, quite a number. We were in secondary school, Chitunga High School. At that time, it was later named after my father. Much later in the 80s. I remember the headmaster invited me and my brother, Habad,
Yes.
to the office. And he told us that there had been questions about us.
And you were in school?
We were in school.
Okay.
And fortunately, nothing ever came to happen. Though, like the late Bananka lost 3 of his sons in Mbarara area.
So it was a very scary time.
Yeah, it was. We were young and we just didn't know what was happening. We could hear people who were being killed all over the place. So he told us stay calm, and we just went back to our dormitories and kept on. After O-level, around that time, for me I was still, I think, around S2 by then. The situation was a bit threatening, and my elder brother who left the country, he went to Dar es Salaam, and they got him a vacancy in Zambia University. That's why he studied. My sister also left the country and went to Nairobi. Started studying from Nairobi. So I stayed at home with my mother and my younger sister. Fortunately, my younger sister later passed on in the 80s, natural. So the environment was quite uncertain for quite a long period of time.
Do you think that a lot of the decisions that your father made have also influenced the decisions that you have made?
Yeah, much as I didn't... he was always moving, and of course after that, when I was a P7, he left and he died in exile, incidentally, 77. But what I knew of him and what I was being told by people who knew him very closely impacted on me, his character. Someone who was very disciplined and focused in things that he did, and it impacted me, without doubt. And maybe a few other things which my mother was very, disciplinarian.
I hear your mother was no joke, not a joking subject, as some people would
traditional say. In the way she used to do things. As I recall when we left, Mbarara and went to the village. 99, maybe 8-9% of the school, the kids would be walking on foot.
Yes.
I mean, barefoot. And I never got to understand why my mother chose that we should just not put on shoes, we should walk on foot.
Because you came from a family that could afford to.
We had them.
You had the
but
shoes.
they would be at home.
Oh.
She wanted us to fit in.
That was
Because I remember, like in the whole school, I remember the only two. I think there were 2 other young people who had shoes, who were walking in shoes. I didn't. though they would be at home. Of course, I couldn't understand that. I eventually came to reflect when I was older. I think that also, in a sense, impacted on my thinking. Her intention was that we should not stick out and we should not just become proud because you find that you are a privileged man.
She wanted you to be able to relate.
I didn't, again, maybe another thing, she didn't allow me to put on trousers until I went to secondary school, S1.
Okay.
You know. So some of those decisions, much as they were not made by me, I think impacted me in I suspect in a significant way.
She sounds like she was a very tough lady.
Yes. And I think she basically didn't want us to become proud. That was the intention, because every time we should say no, you just have to be like everybody else.
But were you ever, were you ever naughty? Like, were you ever...
Yes. From P1 until about P5. On my reports, consistently, almost every time, there would be a comment. You should stop playing in class. And I was the smallest most times. But the teachers used to move me in front and I would move back. I had the preference of sitting behind
You
them.
wanted to be a backbencher?
Almost, always. I used to be a backbencher. But it would always cause, chaos behind the class all the time. I was caned quite a number of times for those very naughty actions. After S4, I was sneaked out of the country after O-level. Sneaked out of the country, I went and visited my dad in Dar es Salaam, in Tanzania, where he was staying. It's around that time when there was chaos in Kampala, in Makerere, when there was attack at college school. Black Tuesday, when the army attacked Makerere at college school. It was quite scary. After HSC, again I was sneaked out and I went back to Dar es Salaam to visit my dad. Again, he was still in Dar es Salaam. But unfortunately, it's a little bit thereafter that he was sick. He was moved from Dar es Salaam. He was taken to Nairobi Hospital where he passed on. So we were moved out quietly, my mom, myself, and our younger sister, Jennifer. We went to Nairobi. And he passed when we were there around that time. He passed, and we found him in a coma. He passed on. And then he was buried in Langata Cemetery in 1977. I came back and I was waiting for my results for joining university. I think a decision was made that I should go out of the country, and they were trying to get me a place in Dar es Salaam University or Zambia. So I remember my brother who was in Nairobi then had sent me a ticket, a bus ticket to go to Nairobi.
Yes.
The day before I traveled, I got the results from Makerere. And I had been admitted in Makerere. So I weighed and chose to stay. I just chose to stay here, in spite of whatever was happening. So I stayed in Makerere.
And you went on to do political science?
Political science, yes. And I was living in Livingston. And until 1979, when the liberation forces, the Tanzanians combined with the two forces, Chikos Malum and Fronasa, attacked and captured Kampala and moved on. But before they captured Kampala, we were caught up in Makerere. Those of us who were not able to cross and go westwards. I remember when they were advancing to Kampala, we had to walk, and we went to Sentema. There was a place where I think the Red Cross had set up form of camp, and that's where we found ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Until Kampala was taken over, and then we had to move back to Makerere.
So throughout those years, basically all your early years until your teenage years, it was just constant instability and
Yes.
turbulence, and
Yes.
even the way you're saying you sneaked out of the country and
Yes.
then back in again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you look at young people now and how they're growing up in the situation, which in many ways people cannot relate to those times, do you feel that we're lucky, or has it made us lazy? Or?
Well, of course, unfortunately, in the period even between 86, there are those who went through the same experiences, some of them even worse than we had to go through, because we were going through an experience of fear, even when there were like killings, they were scattered, but we never went into, for example, the concentration camps, or I mean, the camps for displaced or internal settlement camps, and we were not caught up amidst a war.
Okay.
For example, like the ones we got caught up again after 81. However, even when there is a sense of stability in the whole country, well, there are many other countries that have been peaceful for a long time. And even when there is no war, I would like to believe that people would want to strive to achieve their dreams. So it shouldn't be that because you have not gone through difficulties that you should not have dreams and have the ambition and the drive to achieve them. So I'm not so sure that it's the environment so much. But of course, when you go through tough times, it hardens you in a certain sense. You are
Yes.
prepared for the worst. You know, the worst challenges that you can ever face in life. That's an aspect. But I don't think anybody should wish to go through that to toughen up.
No. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly ask you right now for one of your songs, because we want to know the kind of music that you like. You
Yeah.
mentioned that you listen mostly to gospel music, and one of your requests was from
At
Wilson
at least ever since, for the last like 15 years.
15.
Before then, I used to enjoy all kinds of music.
So you picked a song from Pastor Wilson Bugembe.
Yes.
Yes. Why this particular song? Is it special in some way to you?
Quite a number of them from Bugembe. That's as good as I enjoy it as much as I enjoy quite a number of others that he has played.
It is indeed the Hit Selector on 88.2 Sanyo FM. I am Crystal, and joining me today on Celeb Select, I have Major General MUGISHA MUNTU here with us in the studio. Now, you were saying that you made the decision to stay and pursue political science at McCary University.
Yeah.
But right now you're very disciplined. I mean, we're talking about how you're very spiritual, you do not drink, you do not smoke. But
I used to, though,
you used to.
heavily.
Was that during university days?
Until I stopped smoking while I was in the bush. Also stopped drinking when I was in the bush.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Was it because it was a life-changing moment for you? I mean, because I was reading that the day you finished your university exams, it's the day you decided to sign up.
Yeah. I never made it though. We were in a house behind the Uganda house. It was a safe house, more or less, where the transit point where we were being gathered to be taken to the bush. And it was bust because one of the contacts had been arrested and more or less tortured, and he revealed its location just behind on Nkrumah Road, but exactly behind Uganda House. And fortunately, we saw the vehicles as they were speeding coming to that point. And I remember we ran out. Actually, I was with General Henry Tumkunde in that house.
Okay.
General Mhesi was outside. He had just walked out. He was trying to come in. I could see him across as we were running out of that house. Two of our colleagues were got before they could escape, and unfortunately they were killed in Mbuya. So we ran back to Makerere, the contacts in Kampala dispersed, literally. So it took us a few more days, at least like a week or two, to reconnect. I reconnected when I was in Makerere, and we walked from Makerere. I think about 12 of us walked and joined the first camp in Matuga.
Okay.
I finished my exams on 14th of March, 81, and I got the bush on 21st of same month of March, 1981.
How long?
When they passed that house was in Feb, because we were leaving before exams. So when they passed the house, we went back to Makerere, and then I did exams. Fortunately, I think if they hadn't passed that house, I would have left before I did the exam.
Okay. Had you known for a long time that that's what you wanted to do? Or
as I grew up, there was something that was deep within me that desired to see justice. It's not only here, because I used to follow a lot on what was happening in South Africa and at that time Rhodesia, in places as far as Vietnam, the wars which were taking place. And I always had that feeling within me that nobody should live in a situation where injustices are meted out and there is no response. So in 79, when the liberation forces took over, we started participating as students in UNLF. I remember I was one of those students who went in the formation of the 10-cell system of UNLF. We operated, a number of us went to Mbale, the other, for me, and a number of colleagues, the others went all over the other regions in the country. It was being organized under UNLF. So we had hoped that UNLF would be able to stabilize the situation, create a new foundation, a firm foundation on the basis of which there would be democratic practices, good governance practices. Unfortunately, the UNLF, I think, was hastily formed in Moshi. All the political actors had never taken time in the whole course of regime from 71 to build networks, to train people in preparation for the period after Amin, because I believe everybody would have known that at some point Amin's regime would leave. I don't think they engaged in that. So in Moshi, when the Tanzanian forces had already captured, with the Chikos Marum and the Fronas had already captured Mbara and Masaka, it was clear that the Amin regime would fall. So all these groups which were in Moshi hastily formed the government, and they were so different ideologically. I'm not so sure that most of them had even invested time in knowing what needed to be done after the exit of General Amin. So they came in here. The 2 years they were involved in internal struggles within UNLF itself, because I think the late Professor Rure was led it for 68 days. For 68 days, yes. Then came in Benaisa, who didn't spend more than a year, I think. And then Muwanga came in with the junta. And then, of course, the traditional parties agreed that they should go back into multi-party system of governance. There wasn't a chance for a firm foundation to be established. So 80, an election was conducted. It was really, as far as many of us were concerned, rigged. And a number of us at that time as students, I didn't join any party at that time, though I voted for the candidates of UPM. I believe that there was a need for a third force, like many of us believed at that time, students and quite a significant number of people who wanted to see a new beginning. So UPM was formed. I didn't join it. I had always believed that UNF should have had more time to create the conditions that would be necessary for transiting into a multi-party system of governance then. But the pressures were so much, and space was opened up, the parties got in. Of course, UPC started from where it had left off, more or less. I used to interact a lot with the UPC senior leaders, because my father had been one of the senior people in the UPC regime. And we would say, look, you are doing a number of things in a way that they should not be done. We were young, I mean students, and the tendency is that older politicians hardly ever listen to young people. So they had an election. But those that I was close to, I kept on telling them at an individual level, I said, I think there's going to be a crisis out of all this. After elections, it was contested. Then that's when there was an opportunity to engage in warfare.
Okay.
And I didn't hesitate when I found that there was the Genome 7 group in Ruero. There was another in UNRF, the ones of the late Professor Navderes and the Rugumayos of UNRF AD in the Ruenzori Mountain, and then the UFM group, which was operating from Mitiana sites mostly.
So you said you did not hesitate to join, and during the rebellion, during that time, you were actually shot.
I got there in March. I was shot in August.
That's not
Unfortunately,
long after.
We had a combined operation. We were going to attack a detachment in Woborenzi, and unfortunately, we went to a contact maybe about 6 or 7 kilometers from Woborenzi, where we stayed for that evening. Now, the gentleman, the son of the family where we hid, had a shop in Woborenzi, and he's the one who was doing reconnaissance. Stupidly enough, he shifted his goods from the shop. I think knowing that when there's an attack, normally shops are looted. So I think the intelligence services saw him shifting things, they arrested him. And they tortured him, and he revealed that there was a group which was coming to attack. And he never shot back. And I don't know why the commanders made a decision that we should proceed, but the decision was made. And we reached a point called Bukarasa at night, and there was an ambush, and we were certainly taken by surprise. We lost quite a number we were about 36. We lost about 6. There was a group which had already gone through the ambush. We were the ones who were caught at the end. We fought and beat off the ambush, and they fled. Because those of us who are wounded would never have survived. And that's how the other group reorganized, and they lifted us off. And then we had to move back to Makurubita, which is maybe about 15 kilometers away or 20 kilometers away. And then I was brought here in Kampala, where I spent a month in hospital, the Red Chiseka Hospital. When you are down there in below downtown, below this hotel, Equatorial Hotel, down, you move there. There used to be a hospital there for Chiseka.
There's a lot of research that has come out now, later years, when you look at people who've had traumatic experiences.
Yes.
I think it's called PTSD. Did you ever experience it after you were shot? Did you ever have issues recovering?
No, other than the physical injuries. Because once I was healed, after a month, then I moved back to the bush. At least I never experienced any the post-traumatic stress disorders.
Okay.
Nor did I see many of our colleagues who possibly would have suffered from that. I didn't see anybody, not because most of them acted normal thereafter, even after the war, except those maybe who had the characteristics of being basically reckless.
Do you think it's a real thing, though? I mean,
I imagine it can't be. It can't be.
Because you say you didn't experience it.
I didn't experience it, but it's real. I mean, I've also read research about it. I've seen even feature films about it, like for many soldiers who've been in Iraq and places like that.
Because also a very one of the things that comes out is after going through the warfare, being able to settle down back into society. And sometimes it's also very difficult to just again revert back to civilian life.
I think it normally requires that people should be taken through programs so that they are able to fit back. I don't think that when a soldier reaches a point of retirement, that they should just be left without being prepared for the new life, more or less. More or less, if you have spent a long time within the armed forces. So I think it is necessary for such programs to be put in place.
Well, that was a very big part of your life, definitely, staying on in the military. And one of the things that has come up again and again and again, even as one of the reasons why you rose so rapidly in the ranks, was that you were incorruptible and very, very determined and straightforward. Do you feel that was the edge you had?
Many of us, incidentally, were young by the time we took power. Many of us were still in our late 20s, early 30s, majority of us. There were very few commanders who were in their 40s and 50s. I think they were more or less maybe less than 10%. So when I became the commander of the army in '89, I know that the commander-in-chief called about 5 generals. He had 2 proposals, and they chose mine out of the 2. And that's how I became the commander of the army. And I suppose some of the characteristics that I have as an individual would possibly have been the reasons why they decided so.
Okay. I'm going to ask you now for your next song, and then we shall get back to our conversation. You requested for Rooftops from Jesus Culture. This particular song, is it special in some way?
I like it.
You like it? Okay, here it is on Celeb Select. I asked you about the time that you were shot, and you said you were able to deal with it. And because for many people, we want to know, as the man that you are, if you ever suffered through that. Now, you also mentioned early on when we were chatting that you realize now that when you go down a spiritual path, a lot of things actually, it's like a lot of doors open and a lot of things come your way. How did you get saved?
Around 2000. 99, 2000. I can't exactly recall the month. I was the church I normally attend, All Saints Church. It's something that's has always been there. I think it's called Footsteps in the Sand. So I read it, and it kind of sparked off some desire in me to search and know more than I knew at that time of God, because you see 2 footsteps in the sand, and at some point you see only footsteps of one person.
And you think
so someone someone asks Jesus says, why is it that at the times when I am under the most challenging times is when you leave me? And Christ says, actually it is in those moments when I'm carrying you on my shoulders. That's why you see
just the
one set of footsteps. And I know the human in us, the assumption is that it was you. Not
exactly.
So it's spark of curiosity in my mind, and I enrolled for Bible studies. They called for Bible studies, I think that very Sunday, and I chose to go into Bible studies, and that's how, in the course of the Bible studies, that's how I became saved. Initially, I used to look at people who who are saved as weak.
Okay.
Because I knew some senior officers, a few of them, who were saved, and whenever they would be telling me about issues of faith, in my mind I wouldn't tell them so, but in my mind I would think that, this guy has been so battered by life that he has surrendered, he has given up.
Because some people feel that the intellectual and the spiritual cannot work together. That's how some people look at it. Do you?
Well, the human tendency is that you want to do things yourself. We think that we have the capability to do things. But of course, if you become spiritual, the more spiritual you become, if you accept Christ in your life and you get a deeper understanding, you really find that you are incapable of doing anything. I mean, you don't even know whether you are going to be in existence in the next 5 minutes. None of us knows that.
That's true.
None of us knows that. So every moment that passes, you really need to know that you live, you do whatever you do, you succeed in however you succeed, simply by the grace of God. So I went into Bible study, and that's when I actually came to understand. I hesitated for quite a time because there were a number of challenges in my life, and I wanted to overcome them fast so that I could get saved. So again, the human, in me, I thought that I need to sort out the problems as an individual, as a person. I didn't want to give in to challenges. But then I came eventually to understand that no, you get saved and then you overcome the challenges.
Okay.
And it's been quite fruitful walking that path. I had a period to walk. I think in life we walk two journeys. One is on the outside.
Okay.
One is on the inside. I never knew the inside journey, until I got saved. So all along I'd been walking an outside journey. Physical acquisitions. You can get a position, you can get wealth, you can get whatever you want to do. You can get accolades and whatever titles and whatever you get. You can rise to the highest level you can in the physical. But I of course, when I got saved and I got deeper and deeper to understand our human existence, I have realized that there are two journeys that you walk. You can choose to walk one, the outside one. You can also choose to walk the inside one. And the deeper you get on the inside, the easier things get to be on the outside. So we live in two realms. There's the physical realm, where we see things, where we touch things. There's the spiritual realm, where you don't touch things, you don't, but it's real.
Okay.
In actual fact, my understanding is that everything that happens in the physical is a manifestation of whatever is happening in the spiritual.
Okay. How did you meet your wife? How long have you been married? Let me first start with that.
25 years now.
25 years?
Yeah, and she had come, her family was staying in Canada with the mother. Unfortunately, she lost the father in 72. Her father was a minister in the Obote government, the late John Kakonge, who was killed in 72. So they had come for last rites in their home in Hoima. So I happened to see that occasion on TV.
All right.
Saw her, and then I started inquiring.
No, are you serious?
Yes.
You saw her on TV?
Yes.
And you're like...
And connected on TV. And then I inquired.
Okay.
Asked around, and then as it happened, luckily there was a mutual friend. Within 3 days, that mutual friend, I hadn't talked to her at all. She was the wife of another officer. And she came with her to the office where I was.
Okay.
And when they entered, I saw that this is the Julia whom I had seen on TV. And that's how the relationship started. And we eventually got married.
Did you have to pursue very hard? Because you already knew what you wanted.
Yes.
She was not part of that plan.
No, I think of course she had to ask to get to know who I was. And I also had to ask through relatives. Fortunately, there were relatives on both sides who knew each other. And my father was a friend of her grandfather.
Okay.
So it was easier after that for the connections to be made.
Okay.
And then we got married.
Okay.
Yes.
And you have
we have two children, a boy Mukunda, and a girl, Bukana.
Okay. Who are in their 20s
All of them,
now.
yeah. All of them are living in Toronto, Canada.
Okay. So, you talked about your mom being very strict growing up.
Yeah.
Were you also very strict as a parent? Are you a strict father?
Unfortunately, I have not been so present in their lives because there's been a lot of movement. Myself, when I was in command, moving all over the place, and they started we took them to Turi, and thereafter my wife, who's been working with the African Development Bank, was moving. So I'm the one who would normally go to find them where they would be. She was in Tunisia, she was in Mozambique, then she was in West Africa, Abidjan, until she's now gone back to Toronto, where she's with the children.
Okay.
So, well, I'm not strict in a way. I mean, with the children, I believe that you need to give them space for them to grow through their own experiences. I don't want to impose my own thinking upon them. Maybe only coming to guide wherever you think it is necessary. I only concentrate on praying for them to be protected by the Almighty and to guide them. It's by God's grace that I myself got to know God through Christ, and it's an area that I believe in so much. If you get to know God and you are connected, you get protection. You get to advance mostly in the purpose for which you've been created, because I also believe that everybody's been created for a purpose. There's nobody who walks this planet who doesn't have a purpose in life. So the moment you get to know that purpose, and if by God's grace you get to know God, He'll walk you through that purpose, and the sky is the limit.
Okay. By nature of your career path and being very busy, do you have any regrets that you did not spend more time with your children?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How? I mean, do you feel it now that you're not as close as you could be? Are you working on trying to get to know them better?
Yeah. There are moments I think in life when you look back, when you find that if you were closer, and that eventually in life maybe you'd impact their lives in a much closer way than when you've been in and out, of their lives at different moments in time. However, I've also come to know that in my own life, getting to about 12, that's when my father left and went to Tanzania. He was physically away, but he impacted a lot on my life because of what he stood for. So I would relate to what he stood for. I would feel I was impacted, wanting to more or less attain the character that he had, because I would hear many people who were with him, in terms of the levels of trust they would have with him, the manner in which he used to live, even with people whom he didn't agree with politically, but at the same time who would, trust him to the extent that they would relate with him, even situations of, conflict. So I found that it was something that influenced me much as he wasn't in my life. So I have tried the best I can to live a life that I hope can impact on my own children when they look at it, at least in terms of,
Because
but not doing things that would bring like shame to them. I believe that at the end of it all, everything else in life, physical, material things can go, you can replace them. But character is very, very important. If you lose your name, rebuilding it is a very tough.
And you can lose it.
Tough to, once you lose it, regaining it is highly costly if you regain it at all. But anything physical, a building can burn, a house, a vehicle, a good vehicle can crash. Anything physical can go. You can have wealth, it can, evaporate, but you can remake, you can recreate. You can rebuild a house, you can buy a better vehicle and all that. name
Name is
stuff.
important.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted me to ask you very many different questions. We don't even have time for all the things I'd like to ask you. But you are known for like almost being like that one person who was able to challenge President Museveni, to stand up and challenge him at some point.
Yeah.
What happened?
I believe in being open to people. Even before I moved out we separated.
Because I mean,
Eventually in 2004, I used to one-on-one or even in meetings to be open, to say we are making mistakes here. We need to correct course. I never like doing anything behind people's backs. I want us to agree or disagree in the open. You know where I stand, I know where you stand.
okay.
It has its own challenges, and unfortunately our society has not reached a point where that kind of those kinds of characteristics to be built within people, unfortunately. And they are not inborn. People are trained either through schools or through family or through churches or mosques for to form the good traits within the character of people. I mean, if you disagree, you disagree. But don't agree on something as we are seated in this studio, and at the moment we move out, I just go and do something different. It creates its own problems.
Yes.
And that's why I find, unfortunately, our society is so rampant with intrigue, with manipulation, with deception, with lies. And it has a high cost in terms of how society operates.
Yes.
It's been long existing. It's one of the biggest challenges that even now we face. My hope is that we'll have a significant number of political actors, social actors, cultural actors who can link together and work towards changing that culture. I mean, I see quite a number of countries where you find if you are found to be a liar, you'll be shunned. If you are found to be someone who is manipulative, you'll be shunned. If you are involved in deception or intrigue, you'll be shunned. Whether you are in a company, a cooperative, in wherever you are. And then you find that people start learning, knowing that if I do this thing, it's going to impact on me negatively. We've not reached there yet, but my hope is that all these generations will keep fighting until we reach there.
Until we get there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've been making a few. You've been in consultations of recent. And some people are wondering, okay, what's the plan moving forward? If we're going to look at the political front, are you looking at building a party? Some people are wondering, okay, are you planning eventually to set up your own party?
Again, I have a belief that if there are any contradictions, discuss them in depth. We've had our own contradictions. They have not just started. We've been having contradictions since about maybe 7-8 years ago, in which direction to take, what methods to use. Unfortunately, they are not yet fully resolved. There are those who think we should take one path, while others think we should take another path in terms of either activism or institutions building. They are not in conflict at all. Both are legitimate. Both, if they are well planned and executed, can help in changing a situation, like in this case, changing the regime and moving the country back onto track. I don't think the problem is in having different paths. No, I think the problem is in us as human beings, as actors in the political scene, either because of inexperiences or because of lack of skills. So you find that people spend more time attacking one another about what won't work. We have not reached a point where we focus on what works. Each of us focuses on what works without having to attack the other one which you think doesn't work. Just can't.
So that's always constantly like a stumbling
if you are
block.
going to Kasese, some people say let's go through Mitiana, others say let's go through Masaka. You may have an argument and so this is a longer route, the other one is okay. If you have two vehicles, just move, and the one who gets there first, that's okay. Why do you have to attack the one going through Masaka and say, don't go through Masaka, go through Masaka. Let the other one go through Mitiana. Let the one going through Mitiana not attack the one going through Masaka. Let the one going through Masaka not attack the one who going through Mitiana. As long as you're all going to reach a common destination, which is Kasese. But more times we are attacking one another about why that won't work. And it's unfortunate. The last 5 years, much as some of us tried the best we could to say, no, concentrate on what you think works. Where you can't help, even on the other side, where you think the other one doesn't work, but don't argue with them. It has completely failed. Even now, as you go through consultations, you can't imagine what you hear on radios, on TVs, on the social media, people attacking one another, but spend more time doing that than focusing on the main objective, which is to remove the dictatorship, which we believe should be removed. So we are trying the best we can to say, look, can these two tendencies work together for us to achieve the common objective? If yes, let's cease fire and focus on the things that each can work on, and whichever works first, that's okay. That hasn't worked yet. And we are saying, if we can resolve that, we move together. If we can't resolve that, and we keep on fighting each other to a point of paralysis, and losing attention from what needs to be done on the outside, the main objective, which is to remove the dictatorship and see how to change this country, then maybe we need to give each other space.
And
if that becomes necessary. But even there are people who are attacking that, but without going into discussions, in-depth discussions, put aside emotions.
So you believe that dialogue
there is nothing that cannot be resolved under the sun. As long as people put emotions outside, or off the table when you're going to have any discussions. And also to be open-minded. But you find people take definite positions and they want to make those positions adopted by everybody else. It doesn't work that way. Convince others, say, this works. Say why you think it works. If they don't agree with you, even themselves, they should stick to what they think works. I just can't understand why that is not sinking. So my hope is that we can, of course, once we get views from all over the country, we will sit down and discuss them and hopefully reach a resolution. If we are not able to reach a resolution, then hopefully we can give each other space and hopefully cease attacking one another. So those who believe in one path, they concentrate on that. You should not attack the others who are moving in a different path. Those who are moving in a different path also concentrate on what they need to do without having to attack the other. That is my hope. Because there's nothing that sucks energies out of people like when you are operating within an atmosphere of strife. It sucks energies out of people. It completely diverts attention from the primary objectives. You are caught up in dealing with secondary issues. But I believe it's part of the struggle. We will get there.
You will get there.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming on Select.
You're welcome.
Pleasure having you.
Pleasure is mine.
Just one last question to you.
Yes.
Based on your life, what you've been through, and you're very passionate about Uganda and the way forward. What are some of the lessons you have learned, that you have learned personally, that you can share?
There are certain lessons we need to learn. In life, nothing happens by accident. And there are also laws which govern life. I mean, it's like the law of gravity. If you jump from the top of this building, unless you have a parachute, you will fall. And it doesn't matter whether you know it or you don't know it. It will happen. there are certain laws that we need to understand, even as we grow, even as we try to achieve whatever we want to achieve in life. You know, when you plant any seed, whatever nature of the seed, the tree that comes out of that seed, if it's, for example, an orange seed, you'll get out an orange. That's a law of nature. Now, the problem I notice is that people want to plant one form of a seed and reap a different fruit. It's just not possible.
It can't happen.
It just can't happen. So if you want a sweet fruit, plant a seed of a sweet fruit. Then you reap sweet fruit. If you go and plant a seed of for example, what bitter fruit, grapefruit or lemon, you reap lemon.
Yes.
We need to understand that. So anything that one does in life, you must know that the outcomes of whatever you reap at the end of it all are going to be consistent with the actions you take.
Now.
Yeah, that you take now. And two, I live by the golden rule. I try the best I can. I try everything humanly possible to live by that rule. The golden rule is, do unto others as you want done unto you. If you want anybody to do good to you, do good to them. Again, our lives seem to be completely run on different paths in our societies.
Because people expect more. They want good to be done first before.
It's a law. It's a law of nature. If you do wrong things, eventually time will come and that's what you reap. If you do good things, you get good things in return. Now, at times it takes a bit of time. And that's why maybe it is not so crystal clear to people. But I think that any human being should strive to live by such a rule, the golden rule. Because if you want good, why do you want to do different to other people? You want to do bad and then you want them to do good to you. Why should you expect that? But again, it's a process of life. As we live through, it's a learning process.
Well, thank you again. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so much for coming.
Welcome.
Pleasure having you.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you for hosting me.
Oh,
Yep.
enjoyed it.
God bless.
Well, the last song you requested is Josh Groban's
Yep.
You Raise Me Up.
Yep.
So, any final words with this song?
It resonates whenever I'm either going to prayer or when I listen to it, and it makes me feel, in a sense, connected. I focus a lot. I try the best I can to focus on the spiritual things, to know that I just simply exist by God's grace. I mean, I don't even know 5 minutes whether I will be alive. If I don't know that, it makes me recognize that there is a superior being, God. And I know for sure that it's real, at least from my own experience. So that's why I try the best I can to keep connected.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again. Here it is. You Raise Me Up from Josh Groban. Thank you for coming to the show.
Welcome.
Raise me up.